everyone, and welcome back to TLDR Addiction. For episode 3, I'd like to talk to you about enabling and what to do if you find someone who you think is enabling the addictive behavior of someone else. So in its essence, what enabling is all about is when you are allowing a behavior to continue because you are supporting it. And if you were not supporting that behavior, it would collapse under its own weight. So an example of this is, say someone has a drinking problem and they've spent all of their money so that they can't buy food or afford their own rent or their own place. Maybe they can't even function well enough to hold a job. And so you give them a place to live and you give them food. We call this enabling because if you were not doing that, they would not be able, they wouldn't have a roof over their head. They might not have very much to eat. Now, the reason why this matters is because when people are trying to, or when people need to move out of an addictive behavior, they first have to recognize that it's a problem and they have to become uncomfortable enough to want to change. That discomfort is what we call deprivation in a concept called deprivation motivation, which is that when you experience enough discomfort where you are, that gives you the impetus for change. So another example of this is that when people become, say, dissatisfied with their health or with their weight, that might be when they start a new lifestyle in terms of their eating habits or their exercise. But until it hits that break point, they don't make that change. And so when you are enabling someone, you're essentially preventing somebody from experiencing those natural consequences and getting enough discomfort in order to generate the motivation to get out of this addictive cycle. So if you're talking to someone who is engaging in this behavior, the first step is explaining to them, much like what we've just talked about now, in terms of what is their behavior right now, that enabling behavior, doing to the person they care about. And of course, that's keeping them locked where they're at and kind of resetting the frame from what the loving or compassionate thing to do is to bail somebody out to what the loving and compassionate thing to do is to allow for those natural consequences, is to allow someone's behaviors to have if someone's engaging in the addiction, to let the bad things happen. Don't bail them out, because that allows them to learn and eventually to change. And that can be very difficult, right? That sometimes means allowing someone to not bail them out of losing their job. Potentially could mean kicking someone out of the house if they are showing that you through their behavior that they're not going to follow the rules of the house. It can mean any number of different things, but really at its core, the idea is support and reward behaviors that are consistent with recovery and success, and do not enable or permit behaviors to continue that are moving that individual down a more unhealthy road, or at the very least a road that you don't want to actively support. So thank you all for joining me again for TLDR Addiction, and I'll look forward to talking to you again next time.